Well, hello and welcome back to this lesson on hashing and cryptography. And please don't worry if this lesson sounds a little technical. We're just going to go over a high-level overview of the topics at hand, and in reality, the concepts are pretty straightforward. So, as you now know, a blockchain is nothing more than a ledger of transaction information, and every Bitcoin transaction is simply a transfer of ownership from person A to person B. When you send Bitcoin to someone, in reality, you're not sending anything, as your Bitcoin never leaves the blockchain. Your Bitcoin transaction is simply a message sent from you to the Bitcoin network, asking them to credit some of your Bitcoin from your account to the account of somebody else. That's all a Bitcoin transaction is. It's just a simple transfer of ownership. As we've mentioned several times, all new transactions are grouped together in blocks, and each new block is then linked to the one before it in sequence to form the Bitcoin blockchain. The order of those blocks in the blockchain and the integrity of the data they contain is enforced by the use of cryptography. Cryptography is the study of secure communications techniques that allow only the sender and the intended recipient of a message to be able to understand that message's contents. Cryptography does this by the use of a technique called hashing. Hashing is a method of taking information and encrypting it into a message that cannot be understood by a human or used by any computer system other than the one it was intended to be used by. The unreadable message that's created is called the hash. Here are some examples of what hashes can look like. A hash of the sentence, "Hello, my name is Adam," is this. A hash of the entire first chapter of the classic novel War and Peace is shown here. And if I should edit the final chapter of War and Peace and remove only the final period, or full stop for us Brits, from that final sentence, then the hash now changes to this. So, as you can see, unless you can decode a hash back into useful information, it is impossible to guess what type of information or how much information the hash represents. In this way, you can send classified information to anyone, safe in the knowledge that the information cannot be compromised. Hashing is commonly used online. When you choose a password online, perhaps for your email or online banking, those passwords are almost always hashed before they're saved in a database. So even if a bank employee was to look at your information in the database, they would not be able to understand your password. How cool is that? In Bitcoin mining, every new block's contents are hashed, and a resulting string called a nonce is generated. In order to process these transactions and add this block to the blockchain, Bitcoin miners compete to guess the nonce using very powerful computer systems running the Bitcoin mining software. Once a miner correctly guesses the nonce, the block is added to the blockchain, the miner is rewarded in Bitcoin, and the process begins again. How difficult this process is will vary depending on how much computer processing power is being used across the entire Bitcoin network. The more processing power there is, then the more complex the nonce is to guess. This difficulty level, as we've discussed before, is called the hashing difficulty. And it's calibrated so that the Bitcoin network will process one new block every 10 minutes. Okay, so that's a very high-level view of hashing. It is a complex subject, but please don't worry. In order for you to use cryptocurrency, you do not actually need to know about hashing, as you yourself will never need to create any hashed values. But as hashing is a core concept in blockchains, I included a brief introduction to it in this course. If you want to learn more about how the Bitcoin blockchain uses hashing to process transactions and protect data from being edited, then there is a wealth of more technically detailed information online. Now let's discuss your Bitcoin account where your Bitcoin is stored. Each member of the Bitcoin network is assigned something called a public key and a private key, and an example public and private key pairing is shown here. Your public key is public information and can safely be shared with anyone. But as the name suggests, your private key should remain a secret known only to you. Think of your public key as your bank account number and your private key as your online banking password. Anyone who knows your public key can send you Bitcoin, but only the person who knows the private key, i.e. you, is able to access those Bitcoin once they arrive in your account on the blockchain. Your public key is also commonly referred to as your public address, your wallet address, or more often than not, it's simply called your Bitcoin address. Now, anyone in the world can type your wallet address into a special website called a block explorer and see both the balance of Bitcoins that is held by this wallet address, as well as every transaction that this address has ever participated in. What people can't see is who owns and controls this address, i.e. they can't see your identity. So if anyone wanted to send some Bitcoin to this address, they could do so. They do not need your permission or approval to send Bitcoin to you. All they need to know is your Bitcoin address. However, once those Bitcoin arrive in your account, the sender cannot retrieve them or control them in any way ever again. As far as the sender is concerned, their Bitcoins, once sent and received by you, are gone for good. And that's because there's no central controlling authority you can complain to that can help you retrieve those funds if you send them to the wrong person. If you want to transfer your Bitcoin to somebody else, then you need to have the corresponding private key that allows you to access and control the public key, or the Bitcoin address. So, for you to send some Bitcoin to me, you need to send a message to the Bitcoin network that has been digitally signed using the private key that corresponds to your wallet address. And to do that, we need to use a piece of software called a crypto wallet. A crypto wallet is a piece of software or a hardware device that stores your private key and allows you to send digitally signed messages to the Bitcoin network, which allow you to access and control your Bitcoin balance. Now, often people get confused by the use of the word wallet, and they think that their crypto wallet actually contains their Bitcoins. This is not the case. Please remember that your Bitcoin balance is only a piece of information on the blockchain. Your Bitcoin never actually leave the blockchain. Your wallet contains your private keys and allows you to send digitally signed messages to the Bitcoin network in order for you to access and control your Bitcoin balance. Well, I hope that's not confusing, but if it is, the good news is we're ending this lesson here. If anything in this lesson is unclear to you, please re-watch the lesson and I'm sure it will begin to make more sense. When you're ready, I will see you in the next lesson where we're going to look at crypto wallets in more detail. But until then, as usual, thank you very much for your time.